Hey everyone, I hope y'all are having a great day, and today I'll be reviewing Emergency Contact by Mary H.K. Choi. This is a read that I was really anticipating because A, the cover is absolutely stunning. B, the story is about a Korean-American girl and the story is written by a Korean-American author. And C, it's a YA contemporary, which is exactly what I love to read during the summer. So Emergency Contact follows a girl named Penny who's starting her first year of college at UT Austin and a boy named Sam who works at a local coffee shop and is also taking community college film classes. The two of them meet under unusual circumstances. They exchange numbers and they call each other their emergency contact. At first that label is very literal, but then they start sharing secrets and stories about themselves to each other over text without ever really meeting in person. This book frequently reminded me of Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell because it's about an awkward girl during her first year of college. Penny is studying creative writing just like Kath is, and Penny also feels like she has to be the adult of her family and she has to take care of her mom like Kath has to take care of Ren and her father. So Penny from Emergency Contact and Kath from Fangirl both kind of drew parallels in my mind while I was reading this, and I found that particularly interesting because Rainbow Rowell, best-selling author of Fangirl, is actually the one who blurbed this book on the cover. Mary H.K. Choi, who's the author of Emergency Contact, is a really interesting person. I watched her blueprint video, which kind of documents her entire career trajectory until now, as well as what she'd like to do in the future. And I'll link that video down below in case you're curious and you want to watch it and you want to learn more about her, because I know I'm always curious as to what kind of paths Korean-American women take. But yeah, Mary H.K. Choi is definitely not your conventional YA author. Similarly, Emergency Contact is not really your conventional YA contemporary. It's extremely character-driven. There is not really a plot to this book at all. I remember my friend sent me a New York Times article that was an interview with the author, and she said that she wanted to write a story where high-key nothing happens, and she did that. It did take me quite a long time to really get into this book, so it's a little under 400 pages long, and I didn't really get into it until maybe 200 or 250 pages in. I think this is a good debut novel. There's a lot of really great stuff going on, like super voicey writing. Mary H.K. Choi has super voicey writing. She has dry humor, a great amount of authenticity, and a good amount of wit. I do think that there are problems with pacing and characterization, mainly the fact that Sam and Penny, who are our two main characters, are really the only characters that get a lot of dimensions to them. The ending is interesting because it's kind of open-ended, but not really. It's where some storylines are tied up, but others are just left dangling, and I feel like if Mary H.K. Choi had gone one way or another, meaning if she had either tied up all of her storylines or left them all kind of unfinished, it would have felt like a more conclusive ending. But because it was somewhere in between, it just kind of felt indecisive. Something that isn't the author's fault at all, it's whoever formats what the pages look like in the book. So the two main characters mainly talk over text, so there's a lot of text message conversations in this book, but the text messages aren't written in like a text message format. So the texts are formatted like this in the novel, and I know some books will print out like little text bubbles, and I like that a lot, but the way that they're written in this novel, it's kind of difficult to tell where a new text starts, because like clearly each character will send multiple texts at a time, and sometimes you can tell when a new line starts based on capitalization, but other times it's kind of just random. And I just was confused as to why whoever designed, you know, the interior pages, like wouldn't make it clearer the distinction between different text messages. I don't know, that's probably nitpicky of me, but that was just something that did bother me. Penny and Sam are both really different YA protagonists than the typical protagonists that we usually follow. The situations they find themselves in are pretty uncommon, I feel, in YA. And they're both in really interesting points of their lives, especially Sam. Mary H.K. Choi incorporates things like alcoholism and poverty and sexual assault in a way that doesn't feel exploitative, but rather just kind of seamlessly flows into the narrative. Like, it never feels like those are the focus points of the story, but they're just part of the characters' lives. I really like that Penny wanted to be a writer and that Sam wanted to be a filmmaker, because those are both some of my big interests. Like, film is literally one of my majors at college, and creative writing is one of my favorite hobbies, so to see that reflected in the characters I was reading about was really cool. Overall, I liked Emergency Contact, although not as much as I hoped I would. I know a lot of readers who really loved this book, so clearly there's a lot to love about it. I just wanted something more. I think Mary H.K. Choi is a capable writer, and I'm excited to see what future projects she'll come out with. But now I'm going to go into a super quick spoiler section, so if you haven't read Emergency Contact and you don't want to be spoiled, I'd advise leaving in 3, 2, 1. Bye. 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 I I cannot get over how many similarities I saw between this and Fangirl. Like I said earlier, both of our main characters are studying creative writing. They're both in their first year of college, so they're both kind of like socially awkward and weird, and they both are kind of like the parent between their parent relationship. And what was so odd to me was that Rainbow Rowell literally blurbed this book, so she had to have read it. So I'm thinking, like, when she read this, did she see any similarities? Was she like, this seems familiar? Or was she just like, oh, this is just, you know, a typical college coming-of-age story? Like when Penny asked Sam to drive her to the hospital because her mother was at the hospital, that's exactly what happens in Fangirl, where Kath asks Levi to drive her to the hospital because her dad's in the hospital. Both main characters were driven by older boys who happen to work in coffee shops, and both main characters feel like they can't have relationships with those older boys because of their roommates. I just thought there were so many similarities, and I was like, yikes, this is like a little awkward because nothing can really compare to a Rainbow Rowell book. I'm a little confused as to what's going on with Sam's student film because I know he initially wanted to do a documentary on Bastion and the skateboarding kids, but then he found out that Bastion's mother is undocumented and he didn't want to incriminate this family by, you know, submitting this student film and losing all his rights to it. But then his reconciliation with his mother didn't pan out. So he thought about doing a documentary on her, but I doubt that that's gonna happen. So I'm curious as to what's going on with it. I wish we had gotten more closure because we got closure with Penny's story for her writing class. We like constantly checked in on that and we had her professor's response and things like that, and her professor was so excited about reaching first person. So I feel like we should have gotten like an equivalent for Sam's creative passion too. I think there are some things in this book that were just thrown in and kind of forgotten about, or more so that they're thrown in with purpose and then that purpose kind of disintegrates as the story goes along. And I felt this about Bastion. I felt it with Andy and even Mallory. Like there are story elements that drift in and out of the narrative without a lot of deliberate significance. And I just wish that there had been more purpose behind things in this book. But yeah, enough of criticisms. There were moments in this book that I thought were so funny. I thought the dialogue was really good. I thought the text messages were funny. They definitely talk like young adults. I really like the fact that the two main characters are so unusual. I feel like you'll never follow characters like these in different stories. Like, when are you ever going to follow this boy who's dropped out of college and lives on the second story of a coffee shop and has tattoos everywhere and got his girlfriend pregnant but not really, and his mother's an alcoholic who lives in a trailer park? You know, like there are so many just unique circumstances that make Sam into the character that he is, and I feel like we don't see those circumstances in other books as much. If you've read Emergency Contact, please let me know your thoughts on this book. I would love to hear them. Am I the only one who thought that this was, you know, interestingly similar to Fangirl? Or am I just conflating any story that's about a girl in her first year of college? Thanks so much for watching. I hope you'll have a fantastic day and happy reading. Bye.